If you're into crypto, you've probably heard of DAOs, decentralized autonomous organizations. DAOs are a new kind of company, one that's owned and run by a large number of members rather than by a small number of leaders. So, how do DAOs work, and why should we care? I'm learning myself, and I'm taking you along for the ride. So, I asked 5 crypto experts to walk us through the ins and outs of DAOs. Here are the top 6 things you need to know about DAOs.
So a DAO stands for a Decentralized Autonomous Organization. And the reason why we structured YG as a DAO is because we wanted to distribute, let's say, 45% of our tokens to the community. And we wanted to incentivize them because we work with them and we want to make sure that whenever they spend a lot of their time playing the games that they like, they actually get an upside as well. And apart from that, because it's actually our users that are using our platform, it's really important that they pass like proposals, they vote on it as well. We want it to be really community centric.
The analogy is, what if the Uber drivers in 2009 received Uber equity for each ride that they made, right? Then they would have captured the upside instead of still hustling per trip or per hour as they are now. There is no better way to distribute ownership than a natively digital token that you can easily send out to even people you don't know around the world, as long as you have a proof of their contribution to the network. And for equity, there's always usually an upper limit by which you are considered a public company. I think that limit is like 500 shareholders in most cases. And our guild is now like 45,000 people. So for us to be able to send like maybe a few $100 worth to 40,000 people, that's just not possible in equity land.
At a higher level, incentive alignment is literally the most important thing. It happens to be a lot of work to be running a DAO day to day and managing all of these community voices, and people burn out, and that happens in like a 6 to 12 month period. And so how do you actually incentivize contributors to be not just like weighing in, but actually doing and executing? To how are people making proposals incentivized to make the right proposals, and what are the checks and balances there?
In addition to that, creating the incentives so they're clear for the leadership, because without a strong leadership who's driving a vision, they're not going to continue. They're going to either, oh, I'm not getting paid for this. I'm just helping people get funded for projects while I'm even doing this. That kind of situations happened a fair amount. And also having it be clear, okay, what are we making next? What are we making next? Because it could be they get together for something really cool, like a fun meme. And then like 6 months later, it's just crickets. So finding that sustainability for whatever the ecosystem is, I think it ties in a lot with community building, and it is very much about community.
On the voting side, I think people think about the word decentralization as like a monolithic term, but actually there is a whole spectrum of things you can potentially decentralize. The vast majority of DAOs are structured as one token equals one vote. And it's pretty primitive, I think, because you do have the possibility of these activist investors coming in. And how do you align incentives?
I haven't been in the government space as a career person, but I'm pretty sure they're just chuckling, because I'm sure things move a lot slower because everything's very committee driven, as well as thinking about ownership versus how much say do you have into things, as well as voting power, decision-making power.
I find it really fascinating. First of all, most of them are run terribly because there needs to be structure, but how to do it in a way that resonates with a decentralized format. You're basically threading this needle between you need structure and people need to be empowered to do things, and yet it needs to be decentralized. And that line is really interesting and challenging to really find.
Think of DAOs as a programmable organization where you say all the rules. One of the early inceptions includes voting mechanisms and tokens that can be swapped, or you can put money in and they have different voting protocols. But the reality is that you could literally program in your own rules. It's whatever you make of it. It does it all on the blockchain and allows you to do it fast through simple actions. And one of the problems with DAOs is you set the rules and code pretty early on, and it can be potentially in an immutable situation. So you basically have to hard fork upgrade any of your changes to your DAO, depending on how you built the mechanism.
And then there's a legal side of things that is equally important, because you're actually like bound by legal restrictions. And even if you design a structure that actually works well in terms of getting stuff done for the DAO. There's no one size fits all, but certainly there's like a number of best practices. And FTX Ventures, we actually like a few of them. And then I also like participate as a member in some.
This is the danger of, oh, anyone can join, that's great, whether they be DAOs or whatever. There's a token on the open market, and it's a small enough market, a whale can come in and literally control the entire ecosystem. They don't even have to be someone you know. If you get someone like that, literally have your ecosystem hijacked. Even if you never intended a pump and dump scheme, you're on one. You're on that ride now. and then also they can control and crash your token. Like, oh, you're my enemy. For $1 million, I can go and ruin your economy. That kind of stuff exists. I hate to say that, but I just am saying that it does. That's why curating your ecosystem is really important, to avoid that kind of situation or not allowing those kind of mechanisms to happen.
All this stuff is extremely early. So the vision of these DAOs is that they're decentralized, autonomous organizations, but there is still so many things that need to get built. So most of these DAOs are on a very centralized service called Discord. And there's still a lot of things that aren't on the blockchain because it's so expensive. Reality is I can't even send an email to a wallet address. There's no messaging between a wallet address. So therefore, there's a lot of really interesting community building that's happening within the DAOs because there does have to be a governance structure. I just want to encourage people, if they're just learning here, that it's all incredibly new. And that's partly what's so exciting is there's so much infrastructure to be built.
So let's summarize. DAOs are a new type of legal entity that enables a group of people to form a collective organization without the need for central leadership. Members share in the benefits and responsibilities of running the organization, and it's all enabled by blockchain technology. In practice, DAOs are still very new, and people are figuring out how to structure them so that members act responsibly and bad actors don't hijack the whole system. Many of the people that are promoting DAOs are caught up in a utopian vision of a community that runs on code. And as a longtime community designer, I've learned that not all decision-making should be written into code. Some decisions should always involve humans. Another thing I've learned is that if you claim that decision-making is flat, there's no hierarchy, and everybody's equal, that means that the real decision-making, the real power, is hiding in the shadows where you can't see it. We'll be hearing from these experts again soon, so be sure to subscribe and keep up with the latest tips for startup founders. And join me as we all get smarter together. See you soon.